Good Palm Sunday morning, and welcome to AfterWords, a conversation from the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church, inspired by this morning's message. This morning's message was delivered by Baba Bishop in Bayou Chewy. He talked about opportunity in the midst of crisis. Baba Chewy is both the pastor of the Shrine of the Black Madonna #1 in Detroit, Michigan, and he is the director of our Pan-African Ministries, a graduate of Interdenominational Theological Seminary and Clark Atlanta. He is a dynamic thinker and storyteller, and we were all so privileged to hear from him today. Joining me this afternoon is Reverend Walimu Olatunji, coming from Atlanta, Georgia. Reverend Walimu Olatunji, and Walimu, by the way, just means teacher, is a historian. He loves history the way I love chocolate, and likes to put things in a historical context. We have Brother Samuel coming from Naptown, from Indianapolis, bringing us a young man's perspective on what we're seeing. And from the Beltway, from Virginia, we have Sister Amma. We all got a chance to hear Walimu about opportunity and crisis. When you think about those two, Walimu Olatunji, what do you think? Do you normally get up in the morning and go, oh, something bad really happened or is about to happen? What can I make good out of it?
Yes, I guess what excites me the most as a historian is that we are in the information age. For the overwhelming majority of our experience in America, we have had to wonder about who we are as a people. We've had to depend on those who oppress and exploit us to tell us the truth about our history and about what we should be doing in this day and time. But thanks to modern technology, now we have an access to information that humanity has never had in any time before now. So for those of us who still have a mind to understand that something is not quite right, we can use this platform to get volumes and volumes of information. And this platform can also allow us to be able to reconnect at nature. At the base, we are a communal people. And the more we are disconnected, the more we suffer. This platform allows us to reconnect on a virtual level. And from that point, we can listen to our great thinkers, just like Bishop Bayou Chewy today and those who are hosting with us. And we can begin to come back together in mind and even more important, in practice. We have all that we need in order to solve our problems.
Well, we do, but here's the challenge, Sister Alma. What Elizabeth Catlett had a wonderful, wonderful painting that said, "Don't bring me no bad news." Part of the problem with this information era is we're getting so much bad news about the crises. And as Bayou Chewy reminded us, we can get weighed down by the crises and just see it and lead to hopelessness rather than seeing the promise. How do we manage to keep ourselves healthy and seeing something good can happen?
Well, I think number one, to appreciate that things always change. And I get concerned about using bad things that happen as a foundation. It's like, because sometimes when we go into what we want to see as battle or fighting back, we use the same tools that the enemy has used on us. We use the same language. It might be modernized a little bit, as people used to say, they're not our type of people. They're not one of us. And so now we say things like-minded. That gives me pause. I think that when we try to change, the foundation has to be of God. When we say Sankofa, I go back a little further than history, go back to God. And then when you are coming up with your solution, that becomes your foundation.
Okay. And we heard in Bayou Chewy talk about the fact that if your perspective if you have that magic ingredient, as he called it, that secret weapon, that perspective that starts out with God, who is possibility, we're able to absorb information and situations and act on them differently. Excellent, excellent reminder, Sister Amma.
You know,
Brother Samuel.
Sorry, I just had one thought that I think yesterday, my daughter and I were on our way to the gym, and our neighbors have a way of putting their garbage out, and with the big winds, it flew into the front yard.
Mm-hmm.
I saw my daughter instantly get upset, and I could see it on her face. And I just turned around, picked up a few pieces and put them in the trash. She saw me doing it and she did the same. We haven't spoken about it since. Mm-hmm. Now, it's a whole different thing if I would be picking up that trash and talking about those lazy people or those ignorant people or those, whatever. It's a whole, but I kept my peace in the cleanup. And it also can leave your brain free to address the problem.
Absolutely, that creativity he was talking about, that creativity comes in a place of peace. Samuel, you're in a different place than at least the three of us, insofar as you are in the process of raising young people. How many children do you have?
2 and 1 on the way.
Okay, so we'll count that as 3. Congratulations.
Yeah.
But you've got the joy and the promise of both translating what you see out there in the world for you, so you can get up with an eye toward doing something good or better, and translating it to little people. What did this sermon mean to you today in terms of, as a dad, as a man who is responsible for and loving his children?
Well, what I've noticed is whether you're in Africa or in the Black community over here, a big problem is child molestation by their family. Like, R. Kelly was molested by his family members. So the thing is that God demands of the Black man to be the righteous leader in his family and also in his community. So that's how I see it, is to fix these problems, we're going to have to, the righteous Black man is going to have to stand up and be the example to protect these children from those in the family and in the community that want to harm them.
And certainly that is one of the crises. How old are you little people? They range from almost here to how old?
Like 5 to 5-1.
Okay. Well, Olatunji, you've been teaching for a long time. When you start to think about how we teach and how we set a perspective for children who are like sponges, how do we give them the tools, that spiritual guidance, that willingness to believe that what is right now isn't what's always going to be? Things can be better if they do something with some other people. How do you do that? You got a 5-year-old. What do you say to him?
You asking me?
Well, I was asking Olatunji as a teacher. What has he been saying to him?
Well, first of all, we have to teach from our own cultural foundation so that our children understand that they are beautiful just the way that they have made. And we're in constant competition with a media system that will say everything to the contrary to our children. And oftentimes the media in this society has more exposure to our children than even we do. And then of course, in order for us to teach, we have to understand ourselves. So it's a responsibility of our parents that they know the truth about our history and culture, and then use that as a foundation for educating our children.
Alma, you were talking about providing an example for your mature daughter. She's an adult, of having a calm, peaceful perspective that allows you to be constructive and creative. A lot of young men and women are trying to manage jobs that don't pay enough, kids that need more than they can afford. How do we help them open up their creative juices and positivity?
Well, I don't think it's so much that we have to open it up is to not squash it. As I was in Ghana last year, and I was on a bus, kind of a tour bus situation, and I looked out the window, and I was looking at this village that was, you know, the typical picture that you get, the poverty, and that it was a poor, you know, they were poor. And I looked out the window and I'm like, how is it that I am seeing wealth? I was just so confused. Why am I seeing wealth? And I knew that I had to have that answer before I called myself going there to live. And something, I wish I could remember what it was that gave me the picture. The wealth was in their spirit that had not been taken from them. And it was amazing. So when we have these trials and tribulations, often the spirit is attacked. And we think that we're fixing it. Now they have a house, now they have food. And in that process, we're taking something from them. We're in a culture that says, don't use your own money. You know, you're building your empire, whatnot. Use other people's money. What in the world is that? I don't, you're innocent until proven guilty. What is that? You know, we're in a structure that is just so against what truly is, that it's challenging to deal with it. But I think knowing and being aware of it is the first step. And that's kind of
where things I heard you say was not squashing the spirit. Samuel, how can you help those of us who have well past 50 not squash the spirit of young men and women like yourself?
I mean, that's a hard question. I mean, you know, our spirits, our generation, we got like a lot more.
Okay, you went to mute for a second. Thank you. Your generation has a lot of stuff, but a lot more what?
We have a lot more problems, but the way I know is because the older generations are like in the HBCUs. So the thing is, like, the younger cats that can't find jobs in Detroit, Atlanta, New York, wherever, there's opportunity in Africa. So like, and we got architects in HBCUs. We got people who are electricians. We got all these things in the Black community. So like, they have the skills, but then like in Africa, maybe the younger cats, they could just join the armies over there. They could also be manpower for the mines to mine the gold. They have a lot of opportunities what they can do with it, because instead of Africa working with China, see the older generation has the brains, but we're the muscle. So
Well, I think, young man, I disagree. I think you've got an amazing brain too. And maybe what we need to do is transfer some of those real practical skills, because those practical skills are opportunity, aren't they? If someone is able to show you the skill for repairing simple electrical things, you don't need a job. You make your own job, right? And our job is to not tell you how to do it once we teach you the skill, maybe. Yeah.
but the unions, they'll block you over here. In Africa, they can't block you for
Well,
contract.
actually, okay. As a woman who was a single woman homeowner, the union could not block you from fixing my toilet because I needed somebody to come and fix it. And if I could have a group of young men called maybe Rent a Son, because I don't have any sons, Rent a Son or Us, you have an amazing capacity. You've got a lot of both widows and single persons and people who don't know how to do stuff, who need things done. And that lack of a job is a crisis, right? But the creativity is having people who have those skills, whether they got them from the HBCU or anywhere else, but to share those skills with you. And you know what's funny? While we all tuned you, do we have to share those skills one-to-one? Could we do it on YouTube?
Oh, most definitely. The virtual community is a platform that allows us to be able to share skills and experience on an international basis. We're just having a conversation earlier this morning with Reverend Neil Yonu, and we were talking about how many skilled intellectual master teachers that we have within the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church, and we are an international organization, and how we need to be more purposeful about creating a virtual educational platform where we can share those skills with brothers and sisters all over the planet.
I mean, I was thinking, I listened to Brother Kafine and that beautiful voice. And I think of all the people who have amazing voices. I was listening to Sister Alma, and while you may not think of it as that way, you have a peaceful voice. And when I hear it, it is calming, right? And I'm thinking of all the young moms whose kids are making them crazy. Because kids, by the way, Samuel, it's their job to make you crazy. It really is. That's what they do. But they also give you a lot of opportunity. And I'm thinking of a story hour where Sister Alma is reading, which lets the mama who has 3 kids, had to go to work, trying to go to school, trying to fix dinner, let the kids watch something other than the bad side of YouTube and hear someone tell a story and laugh. What do you think about that, Sister Alma?
Are you saying to tell stories to the children as opposed to looking at like the multimedia or that we have? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying maybe one of our ways, one of our tools to take that crisis of young mothering and make it an opportunity is to let people like yourself or others provide a story hour. You didn't have to move the kid from one place to the other. You get 5 minutes of peace, and the children get to look at somebody else's nana, grandma, auntie, who is giving them a peaceful presence and just a moment to be and feel loved.
Yeah, that most certainly would be a good thing. That would be a good and useful tool. I think another way, I'm sure, and my grandchildren are now teenagers.
Okay.
And so one of the things that I think is important when we decided to combine our households, that I came here to collaborate with her. It was interesting. My friends were talking, now they can, you can get them to know about how you feel about things and da 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 da. No, 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 no. I really think we're now into our 6th month and doing well. That coming with a spirit of collaboration and supporting something that we both wanted. She travels a lot, needed some help with the children, for her to feel okay about it. You know, that it's okay. It doesn't make you a bad mom or any of that. And to support the work that she's doing. So I think that's been very useful. Because the children will see that process in terms of how you get along and how you solve problems. And we'll be passing that along.
And Samuel, that word collaboration, that's kind of important. You were talking about sometimes kids are exposed to dangerous elements within their families. And that there's got to be some protection for them. Part of that protection probably needs to be those of us who are of a different generation collaborating and respecting your wisdom about what's going on out there in those streets, because you know it a whole lot better than we do, don't you?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's crazy. It's real crazy. Like here in Indianapolis, there was this girl from Africa. She had her 3-year-old daughter at a daycare, and this I don't know if he was a black gay dude or whatever, or if LBGQ, working at the daycare, he molested her 3-year-old daughter. And what was her? And instead of her daddy being there to protect her, where was he at? He was fighting in the U.S. Army.
Well, okay, and you can make us aware of the problems that are arising in different ways and spaces. And how do we, well, in Olatunji of the other generation, learn how to listen better and be more respectful of the opportunity and wisdom from our young people?
Well, the thing is that it's hard for the young generation to accept that these sick people should live, because if Martin Luther King had to die,
And I hear you, Samuel.
yeah.
The question is, how can we have a more productive interchange? And I'm asking Walum Olatunji, who could be your dad. How do we learn to be more respectful and hear the young people when they speak, Olatunji?
Oh, okay.
Well, definitely we have to realize that, first of all, our children are an extension of a communal village, and that it is our responsibility to nurture them in a way that their gifts and their spirit will come out and serve the community. I remember as a social worker, in some situations, parents would say that the children should just listen and do what I say, not what I do. That is a strategy for self-destruction. Our children are born with a natural gift from God, and we as parents and as a community must nurture that to its fullest potential so that it can have its fullest expression. I may have mentioned once before a situation where my grandbaby being trained in the Shrine of Black Madonna Kibaland Youth Program, where we understand that our children are ready when they are born. And so we start our educational system at home in terms of, potty training and the basics. But from that point on, we don't wait till they're 5 or 6 years old to start educating them. And so I was at a restaurant one time, and my grandbaby was sitting there reading. She was 2 years old, reading a newspaper while I was getting the food. And a sister came by and said, "Oh, that's so cute. She looks like she's acting like she can read." And I said, "No, ma'am, she's reading." And so she's looked at. She said, "Well, oh, she's much too young. How old?" I said, "She's 2 years old." And she said, "Let me look." So she came around and looked at my grandbaby, and that inspired her even more so. And she said she is reading, and that's because we understood from the very beginning, as a Pan-African community, that her potential was already there. We just had to nurture it in such a way that it could be exposed as early as possible so that they could go on to the greatness that God has planned for them, which serves our community.
Okay, so we've heard lots of things. We've heard listening and respecting our young people, expecting them to be great, not squashing their spirit, hoping them to be grounded in the eternal faith and God's possibility. We've been talking about opportunity in crisis today, inspired by the message from Walimu Bishop Mbayuchui, which you can find on YouTube and be inspired by. But as we leave you today, we're going to ask you to share this with others. And I'm going to ask Samuel, give me 2 words that will help us think about possibility for young and all Black people. Give me your possibility phrase. What do you think? What's possible for that 1-year-old?
2 words?
It could be up to 10, but not more than that.
Never give up.
Never give up. I like it. Sister Alma, possibility despite crisis.
Wow. Well, I would encourage peace.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a language now where a lot of influencers or people are starting with, I'm excited, whether they're excited or not, have them saying that, I guess, until they believe it. I think that I would, rather than seek excitement, seek peace.
Okay. Seek peace and be around peaceful people. Walimu Omatunji.
As a problem-solving solution, there is no limit to what we can do if we come together, pool our talents and our skills for the overall development of our people.
There is no crisis that God cannot help us solve if we put our minds to it, put our faith with it, and join our brothers and sisters. We welcome you to join us in the Shrines of the Black Madonna, the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church, on our many venues. We have church service that's recorded on a Sunday, but you can listen to it anytime. Afterwards, a conversation that you could join us with any given Sunday. We're here for you. We want you to be the change that you want to see in the world, and we believe in you without limit. See you next Sunday.